poll, a two scripters, one motherfucking poll. It's 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, the day after I was supposed to release this episode. But y'all, it's been crazy. It's been so crazy. So what? It's now been 2 weeks since my birthday. So that was the last time that I recorded. But so much has happened in 2 weeks. And what was my last week like? It just happened so fast. Everything. And so I had please, okay, so let me start there. If you do not follow me on Instagram, please go to Instagram at two scrippers one poll. That's two SKRIPPS one POLE. Okay. So yes, please go to two scrippers one poll and follow me there. I've talked about, I always be like, I talked about this before, but y'all be knowing, I be repeating this shit out of myself. But that's been brought up in several times. I got notes. Oh man, if you're new here, welcome. If you've been here for a while or as of late, or since A1 day one, y'all already know, and that's why y'all keep coming back. I do want to give a quick shout out to the Black Lotus. Let me make sure it's the Black Lotus Collective, okay? Shout out to you. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So I'm sending you light and love, because you be under the comments like, what's up? And yeah, so I just love to you. Peace and love to you. But yeah, it's just be like, oh my God, there's so much always happening. And I forgot my train of thought of why I started going on this tangent. I was talking about repeating myself all the time. But what was, y'all, that's crazy. First of all, I didn't realize I've been talking for two and a half minutes. But also, I was just I just started this. It feels like I think it was last week. I was or maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3. I don't fucking know. I said at one point that I be thinking I'm talking for longer, but it don't be as long, or vice versa. So this is a moment where I was I really felt like I was going to look at the camera and it was going to say 1 minute, but now we 3 minutes in. But what the fuck? And that's crazy that I can't recall what I was talking about 3 minutes ago. That's insanity, right? But it just be so fucking much. But I was talking, what the fuck was I talking about? That's really crazy. That's really crazy. Oh. Okay. I really don't know. It was about something that I've said before. I know that. But there's so many things that I've said before. And this is I'll be talking to friends and I'll be like, oh my God, did I tell you about the time? Yeah, you did. Several times. Oh. And I'll be just as animated and just as excited, because the other part is a lot of the stuff that I be coming here to talk about, I'm having actual conversations with people. So it's I don't know if I spoke to you about it already, or if I'm just reminiscent of a conversation with somebody else. But to know me is to know that I'm all over the place. And that's just part of what you have to accept in knowing me. You feel me? Damn. I really wish I could remember what the fuck I was gonna say, but we just gonna move on and we just gonna keep rolling with the punches. But let me just go to my notes. Let me go. I think I was trying to recall the past 2 weeks, because it's been 2 weeks since I recorded. So that was my birthday. What has happened since then? So much. Where's my planner? I feel like my planner would give me some insight as to what I'm even trying to talk about. I'm just finishing week 3 of school. So last week was intense. So yeah, I guess I'll start with school. How's that been going? Because everything is just always overlapping. So group therapy has been good. I don't feel like anything super significant has happened in there in terms of like a aha moment, but I've really been enjoying my social and cultural diversity class. So the first week it was just like introductions and getting to know the professor, getting to know each other, because this class is actually, I thought it was going to be like my cohort, but now we're at a point where you have like second year and third year. So it was a mixture. And like some of the people that are in my cohort, I thought they were going to be in this class and they weren't. So I was like, oh, okay. So it was kind of like, oh, I know these people are uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, I have to open up like a new level of vulnerability. I believe I mentioned I'm the only black person. There is one other person in my cohort who is a Korean woman, and everyone else is like white, and I don't know what like category of white. We haven't really touched that. But yeah, and it's been interesting. So the first class we were talking about, like, we kind of continued the conversation from when I was talking in Mass Murder Turtles about how we had the guest speaker at our orientation, Dr. K. Whitehead, and how she teaches a course, and she was talking about how like she'll give her students all of this history, and then there's like a point in the middle of the semester where she'll be like, okay, when was the first moment that you like realized race was a thing? Like, when did that really impact you, and like when you could comprehend? So one of my classmates brought it up, and so it started this conversation. So my professor was like, yeah, okay, like if anybody's willing to share, when was the first moment? And it was funny. One of my cohort members was like, she realized she was white when she had a black friend, and the black friend had braids. And she was just so amazed that she could just take the braids out her hair. And she was just like, I love braids. How was it that easy for you? And she couldn't comprehend the difference. So like, she went home telling her mom like, yo, like such and such can just like pull the braids out her hair. And when she shared this, I started dying laughing, because I vividly remembered, like, I think I've talked about this before, about how like I don't like to do other people's hair because I do it to get it done. My hair is going up in a bun. So if braids just start falling out, that's fine. And then at some point in time, what I started doing is like because it'd be taking forever, I was like, okay, instead of like doing the hair, trying to tuck it and all that, I used to two-strand and twist my hair and then braid around that, so that when I'm ready to take it out, I could just slide it off. And I was like, phew, and my hair was already like parted, separated, like I knew what to expect, right? So I just thought it was so funny when she started talking about that. And but she was saying that she went home and like explained this to her mom, and her mom had to explain like it's not the same, because like it's not her real hair, and your hair is different from hers because your hair can't really hold that. And she was just like, phew. And then like somebody else had shared about how like they had a black friend too, and it was like the grandma was like, yeah, don't be hanging out with that white girl no more. And somebody else had shared like their experience growing up as like the other, and like being being Asian, and what that means, and like being made fun of for like wearing glasses or eye shape or food. And it's just like at such a young age, and I shared, and I was like, I don't know, like I'm sure that there was a point in time where I was younger that something happened, but for me, the two things that really stand out was one time I was no older than 9, for sure, no older than 9, And for many reasons, like there's like a lot of time gaps for me. Like I don't remember too much before the age of 4. And I don't really like between 4 and 9. I don't really remember much either. It's all a blur. And that's, I can tie it back to a couple of traumas, more specifically of like, okay, that would make sense. But yeah, so I don't really know. Like I know somewhere all of that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But we used to go to Florida every year to visit my sister and my grandmother and my great grandmother. And we're on the bus. Like we used to go to the beach and all that. We're on the bus, and I had 2 straight backs. They was looking crazy because again, we was at the beach. We was outside with the jellyfish, the sand, all of that, the salt water, all of that. Okay, we was outside with it, and I was a kid, so I was running around, and so my cornrows was looking crazy. And since we've been out in the sun all day, I got a tan, and so I don't know what the fuck me and my sister were arguing about, but she was like, shut up, that's why you look like Flavor Flav or something along those lines. But she compared me looking like Flavor Flav between the fucking straight backs and the tan. All I was missing was the chain. I mean, honestly. And it was some white people on the bus, and the white people started laughing. And for me, that was so embarrassing. And so I really feel like for years I did not like to tan, and I tan so easily. I mean, I go to the bus stop, and by the time the bus come, I'm already a shade or 2 darker. So I think that's in part like I already don't like summer because it's hot. I'm a fall baby, so this is my time. Right now is my time. Okay. But when I really think about it, it's like my disdain for tanning really goes back to there. And in recent years, like I've embraced that, and I do like that my skin can like go through, because people keep calling me light skin. I am not light skin, okay? I think that I am caramel. I am medium brown, okay? I'm not light skin. I'm not dark skin. But people swear, like dark skin people swear, or like a little bit, not even, they don't even got to be dark skin, like brown people, which I'm brown. I'm a lighter brown, but I'm not excuse me. I'm not light skinned. I just don't see what they see. The light skinned people be like, no, you brown skin, you caramel. But anybody a little just an ounce darker to me be like, nah, bitch, you light skinned. So I'm just like, can we stop with the colorism? I'm black, baby, I'm black. That's all that matter, right? But anyway, so I lost my point. Okay. So I have learned to appreciate the range that my skin can display. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Because people are like, oh, you be yellow in the winter. I really don't. Like, I don't get that much lighter. Do I get lighter? Yes, but I don't get that much lighter. So yeah, back to the point is that like I know for me that was a pivotal moment in like a little bit of, I don't even want to say self-hate, because, well, no, I guess in a way it was self-hate, because, like, I really hated tanning. I really did. And then another really memorable, pivotal moment for me, too, was, like, I went trick-or-treating, and again, don't remember what age. It was either elementary or middle school, but I think it was still elementary, and, we went trick-or-treating in a nearby neighborhood that was known for like having better candy. And there was like a little group of white kids before us. They went and got candy. We went up to the house, and the lady, like real live, like puts her hand, and she didn't have the bucket like outside. It was inside, and she was like talking to people. When people came up, she would open her screen door, and she puts her hand in the bucket, and she sees that it's a bunch of black kids. And she's like, I don't have any, takes her hands out, I don't have any more candy, closes the door, turns the light off. So we're just like, okay. And we walk away. The next group of kids, white, she opens back up and gives them candy. So I had like shared that. So then my professor was like, wow, like, how did that make you feel to share? And I was caught off guard. Um, and so I was like, oh, I mean, I'm used to being the only black person in class, and I've felt like I've this program and these people, I know them well enough to feel like this is a safe space. So like, I mean, I didn't really feel any kind of way. And then after I answered that way, I was like, oh, I don't really know if that was like the answer you were looking for. And so she was like, oh, no, like it was an awkward moment. I don't remember what she said after that, but it was both like we kind of acknowledged it was an awkward moment and then we moved forward. So that exchange for me was very significant because it wasn't until after, I guess, like I had to really break it down of like what just happened, right? Um, and for me, I was solely caught off guard because she hadn't asked anybody else how it felt to share. And by that point, it was like, I know for sure at least 3 other people had shared before me. I don't know if it was 4, like, because a couple, I think, including me, remember at least 4 people sharing. There might have been a little bit more, but I know that at least 3 of those people shared before me. So then when it came to me, I'm like, dang, like you didn't ask nobody. And I wasn't offended. I didn't feel singled out. It was just like I genuinely was caught off guard by being asked a question because no one else was asked any type of question, right? So I had to sit with that. And then I started thinking about like, so to jump forward a little bit, the next class we started talking about cultural competency versus cultural humility and the importance of words. Words matter. When we're talking about cultural competency, the word competent is like, do you know it or do you not? There's this sense of achievement, like, oh, I know all that needs to know. So I went to this workshop. I now know, I've marked off this box. I now know about cultural whatever competence. Like, but cultural humility is the idea of like, you're constantly learning and 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 growing. I don't have my notes. Actually, let me go get them. Ah, shit. I just scratched my damn ass. That's crazy. um, so yeah, let me get so cultural humility versus cultural competence. And cultural humility is teaching you how to love, how to listen, how to be open. It's like the being. It's lifelong learning and self-reflection. It's recognizing and challenging power imbalances for respectful partnerships. And it's institutional accountability. It's an approach, it's a tool, but cultural competence is this notion of all knowing, all powerful, this sense of completion. And so when you think of that, and we were also having a conversation that first class about like, we had like broken into groups, and we were discussing like the articles that I had mentioned in last week's episode. And we started talking about this idea of white anger and like how white people get so upset about things. And we had to break it down of like, and one of the people in my group, she's also a former educator. I cannot remember what the other woman, like what her before was, but me and this other cohort member, like we've always clicked because she also taught high school art. So that's always like a talking point for us of like connecting it back to like, this is what we were seeing in the school system. And so I brought it back to that, and I was like, as frustrating as it is as a black person to have to like constantly rationalize people's behaviors, because you would think in a perfect world that it's like, we are humans, you'll be able to move past whatever this gripe is, and like, for understanding that at our core we're human beings and we have experiences. It doesn't matter if I'm black, if I'm a woman, if I'm gay, if I'm whatever. Like, I live and breathe and eat just like you. I need to sleep. Like, I need the same basics in order to just live on this earth. But because my skin is darker than yours, then it's all these preconceived notions. But part of this class is like learning, where's all this coming from, right? And challenging that power imbalance. So how can we be a better people? How can we work together? This partner, you got to work together, right? To continue learning. And the only way you're going to learn is if you're exposed and you're having conversations with people. And so, yeah, that was, one of the things. And then of course, like, we're talking about hold on, what was this? Because this time I'm doing something different where I'm using my sketchbook as like my notebook for both of my classes instead of having things separate. But just because, I told y'all I'm just plopping around right now. Like, I'm a couch surfer. And so I'm trying to consolidate, as like I'm living in a backpack and in my car and carrying things around. So I gotta try to consolidate as best as I can. And y'all know these notes be noting. So I have like really 3 notebooks. I haven't been doing my affirmations. I haven't been doing yoga, and it's like sometimes I beat myself up. And I talked about in Recording from the Void where I do like the gratitude stuff, and y'all, I did like 2 circles, and I haven't. Oh, I lied. I did 4. I did 3.5. I did 3. I did 3.5, and then it just, because my days are just so long from like work and school and just so much is going on. Like, for a while I just kept up with just like the gratitude part for the day, and I'm like, oh, I'll come back and like read what I wrote in gratitude and then make a mandala in regard to that. And then like August 14th, I don't really know what happened on the 15th, but I just like stopped, and then didn't start back till September 7th, and right now it's September 14th, and my last entry is the 7th. So I bring all that up to say is that like the practices that I have been talking to you all about, of like the mindful breathing, the spiritual practices of meditating and being more with my plants. Oh, this is Benji, guys. This is my man Benji. You've met Benji before, but he's doing awesome. Georgina. Oh, update on Georgina, y'all. So I told y'all that like all her leaves turned gray and she was looking crazy, and she real life had like 3 leaves left. My baby girl is back. She's doing well. She got a pretty good amount of new growth. But now I feel like she's stopped again. So she's becoming fuller. I noticed that her trunk is thicker, so I guess that's a good sign. I don't really know what happened. I do want to try to pour some coffee into, because I read something, fiddle leaves are so finicky, so I want to try that. Lil Durk, okay, so I was moving Lil Durk. I think I told y'all Lil Durk is my mini fiddle leaf fig that I've had for, I want to say, probably 2 years now. So I've had Georgina for at least 4, and I've had Lil Durk for at least 2, and he just won't grow. And I was like, what's going on? So one day I repotted him, and I realized that like my nigga got big roots, okay? He's a grower, not a shower, okay? And so I was just like, I don't understand. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was a hole in my water bottle. And so I was moving him, and a leaf broke off, and I just lost it. I was like, oh my God, like this man is already not growing. What is going on? But then I guess that like just triggered growth, because then he grew another one. But then I was like, oh my God, he's stunted again. But I just noticed the past week I haven't really been at like my main station. And I just noticed that he has another leaf, so we just gonna keep praying that they get bigger. But yeah, so I brought all of that up because right now I haven't been doing like my consistent like affirmations and journaling and my teas and everything, because everything's all over the place and I'm constantly just go 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 go, and I'm so busy, y'all. I'm so busy. It's a great busy, but it's really like it's so much going on that I have to like really find time to like sit down and focus and just get shit done. So in terms of even just this podcast, like I was kind of stressing out. I think that's what I was talking about. We always bring it back. Follow me on Instagram because I haven't been doing reels. Like, I still want to keep up with the podcast because I enjoy it and I have somewhat of a system. It's just that it's just a lot of work between trying to drop this every week and do stuff for like findom. And you got to kind of think of like in terms of what is really bringing in income and doing what I need to do right now, findom. And I've been telling y'all how I really want that to at some point be like, I want that to take over. And things are going really well with that right now. So like a lot of my creator and content energy has been going on that route. So y'all get what the fuck I give you, right? But I be trying my best to still be consistent. And so I've said all the things that I say is that like when it comes to Instagram, I haven't been doing reels. Like what I've been doing with the podcast is just like, okay, let me go ahead and do this recording. I can get the like what I used to do when I was doing all this, like I would have the audio separate and then the video. So I would go through the audio first and schedule the audio, then I would go with the video. But like the first season, I wasn't putting the actual videos on YouTube. That was on Patreon. And I had the minisodes, but I was like, whoa, that's too much to have minisodes and the full episodes every week. That's a lot. So I had to bring that back in. So then when I came in with season 2, I was like, all right. So I had the nice little graphics done. I had I spent my winter break doing like graphics and just coming up with a better system. But that still has been a lot. And like, head on over to patreon.com/2 scrippers 1 motherfucking po, okay? No motherfucking, just 2 scrippers 1 po, okay? You do get a free 7-day trial, and it's so much shit. Like I've been recording episodes. I just haven't uploaded them because I just don't have the time right now. So it's just gonna be one of those things where whenever I do take a break from the main episodes, that's when you'll get new content. But it's plenty of content on there. So go. You get a 7-day free trial. Like, what the fuck? Just binge watch it, okay? But like, at the end of the day, support your girl. Is $10 too much? Like, give me feedback. Like, why y'all not going? What is it? Like, help me, help you, help me. The fuck? We're on this together. I need to get an endorsement from Zac Efron. He can come and sing to y'all. Cause what's up? Partnerships. What y'all doing? Head on over there. Patreon.com/2 scrippers 1 po. At the time of this recording, I don't know if my Balesa I think it actually expires tomorrow at 15th. Today is 1:30 in the morning, Saturday, September 14th. So I think if you listen to this on time, watching it, because I'm going to drop it this morning. Because I always I give myself like 8, 9 a.m. That's the thing. I've sketched. So, back to my recording. The point is, go to Balesa using whatever code is in the description once I finish this. And go bust that nut, okay? 30% off your next nut on me. All right? Okay. Listen, I just bought 2 new dildos, okay? I've been in this motherfucking masturbating, okay? And why did I buy 2 new dildos, you ask? Because I've been having so much fun making fun of penises online. I'm telling you, it's so much fun. Sidebar. And so I've also been coming here telling y'all a lot more like tales of essential findom stuff, because I don't have it like actually set up. Like I just haven't had the time in space, because I think too those are just so like, I actually like to bring toys and things like props. It's a lot to set up. So I've just kind of been telling y'all more so in real time the type of stuff y'all would get on Tales of a Sensual Findom. Right now on Patreon, though, in terms of Tales of a Sensual Findom, I do have me and my cousin a while back, after we took a wax class, I did do some wax play with her to give you an example of how to do that. I do use regular like paraffin free candles. I put a disclaimer, the class that I went to, so rack is risk, hold on, rack BDSM, is that right? Rack is risk aware consensual kink. So like knowing the risk associated with whatever you're doing. So like I think it was a toy play, I did some like rope tying, and I was talking about you have to be careful about where you're tying rope because you don't want nerve damage. Which I do have a story about rope play that I can't remember if I talked about it. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do a part 2 because I be rapping. But I bring that up because the class that I went to, she wasn't using candles that had body play in mind. She had candles that like you're getting from Walmart, right? But there's still safety that needs to be considered. So please, disclaimer, I'm not telling anybody to go to Walmart and buy candles and try wax play at all right now. Please do not do that. Do your research with everything, which is going to be what I eventually get into. Do your research and make sure that everybody involved knows the risk associated and that you're doing your best to keep everybody safe. So I'm not about to sit here and like teach y'all how to do something because I'm still learning. And so I can show you what I have learned and give you the warnings of what can happen, right? So you don't like, please do not go to motherfucking Bath and Body Works and get you a motherfucking rose water and ivy candle and think you about to be pouring it on your sweetheart, because that's gonna be a trip to the ER. Okay, do not do that. So yeah. There's like one on that. There's like stories with subs when I went to a play party and I like trampled somebody. There was the sub that I had, the deaf sub, and conversations with him. And yeah, so there's a lot on there. But anyway, I was talking about, so I have a sub who he calls me on night flirt, which is phone sex operation, and he likes my butt. He think I got a big old ass, right? And we've been kind of going back and forth since January, so it's really funny to think he was the very first, and he's really the only person I've gotten. I've gotten a couple of calls on night flirt because I be forgetting to turn it off, and I will get calls when I was busy. But other than him, I have taken the phone for 2 other clients. And I haven't got calls back since. One of them, it was awkward because this is also when I had like, he called and he was trying to be like sexy, like, oh, what are you doing? What you smoking on? Da da da. Oh, what are you wearing? Like, oh, if I was there, I would do this. And I'm like, baby, it's not this kind. Like, I played along, but it made me uncomfortable. It did, because I was like, that's not really. I'm not in this space to pretend like I don't want that kind of dialogue, right? And so then I had another caller who like, I happened to be, I was like working on a weekend and I forgot to turn it off. But I have the way I made my ad, it was like, chat first, or I'm going to assume that you want to ignore a call because the bitch be busy. So, like, if you want my attention and you want this call to be best tailored, like, are you calling me for foot worship? Are you calling me for ass worship? Are you calling me for findom? Are you calling me because you just want to talk? Like, give me a little bit of something to work with because it's all role play. It's all fantasy play. I need to, like, get into, like, what are you into to make this call customer retention, And so, like, I just answered it because I was like, fuck it. And so he didn't say nothing. So I just started typing. But then that's when he started speaking. And I really don't know what the fuck he was saying. He was talking so low. I had no idea what this man was saying. I caught something about feet, and something else. And I was like, oh. And then I think, like, he ended up hanging up. I couldn't hear a thing he was saying. And I didn't hear from him since. But my ass, dude. It's just been so funny because I remember that first call. I was freaking out. I was like, I don't know what to say. And he like, and at the time, my ad did not have my ass in the picture. And so he was like talking about my ass, and I was like really confused because I was like, what? So then I said something about like, oh, you saw my ass on Twitter. And so he was like, yes, goddess. So my ass was like, oh, what's your Twitter? That man he hung up so fucking fast. And so, like, but in that call literally didn't last more than like 4 minutes, but I think I got like $20 out of it. So I was like, okay, great. And since then, I mean, since January, we've had, let me see, I can actually look it up and see. We've had 5 phone calls, and before taxes have been taken out, he's given me like $600 since January off of 5 calls. He's sent me tips 14 times, and then like also like it charges per text message. So between that, like, and most of it has been I've made him tip me. But it's just funny because like that first call was so fucking awkward. It was in January. I was like, fuck, I blew it. And then I got the next call. Can I look up the history? Yeah, I can. So, the first call was 4 minutes, and it was January 18th. And then I didn't get another call until May 18th, and that was 4 minutes too. And so that call was funny because it was right after I dyed my hair, and my cousin and her friend Billy, shout out my cousin and Billy, they were over, and like I was sitting in the couch, like Billy was on the couch, I was sitting in the chair, and my cousin was like helping basically crochet my hair back, because I mentioned how like when I dyed my hair, my roots was just like, bitch, we out. And just like, I really thought my locks was gonna fall out, y'all. I really thought the next episode was about to be bald headed. Like, I was prepared, because let me tell you something, when I had waves, them bitches was swimming. I hope you had a life vest on deck, okay? These bitches was rolling, okay? So like it really wasn't, for me, it wasn't like I'm like, oh, we got to go back to bald mango. Like, that's what it was. I just wasn't mentally prepared. So anyway, she was helping that. And then it was one of those instances. I didn't realize I was logged in. And so my shit, like, I heard like a thing from my laptop, and then my phone started ringing. And I was like, I got to get to the money. I got to answer, right? What worst case scenario? So I pick up. And, he's like, oh, goddess, da da da. And I only had a couple of lines ready. And so I literally was like walking back and forth. I had it on speaker, and I was like, so then they started like telling me stuff. And so I was saying things. And then I don't know if he hung up or got disconnected. But I think, let me see. So the first call from that, does it tell me how much I got from it? So the first call, I got $13. And that was when I had my thing set to $5 per minute. And it's financial domination, so I raised the price. So then when he called in May, that was 4 minutes, and I raised it up to $7, and I got 19 out of that. And then, let's see, he called again on May 28th. And this is when I mentioned last week how I did I was on Loyal. I think I did. So the video that I made or I released during my 28 Days of Temptation, it was the ass that broke the bank, a slave's financial ruin. And so this was about him because he had started messaging me and he was like sending tributes or whatever, and he's like begging to call, and I was already doing a live camming on Loyal Fans, and so I was like, yeah, you could call. And then I had got the idea to like as I was on the phone with him and I realized he was on Loyal Fans too, I started teasing him and I had the recording, so I posted that. But this like 15-minute call happened during that. And so I had actually raised my price to $7.33 at that point. And I think like after Night Flirt takes out all their stuff, you only get like, I think I get like $5 per minute at that. So the 15-minute call was a little bit under 75. So then I didn't hear from him again until July 20th, which I don't remember this call. It was 8 minutes, and I got about $40 from it. And then most recently, on September 6th, the call was 16 minutes and I got about $80 from it. And it was just funny because of like I don't remember the July 20th call. But just like the evolution of how I've been more comfortable in calling people like small dick bitches. You know, the 2 dildos I bought is for SPH, and I bought a 4-inch and an 8-inch. And my mom was like, what are you going to do with that? I was like, make fun of small penis men on the internet. Like, my ass slave, most recently, you know, usually how the call goes is like, he's like, oh, your ass is my god, like, please, can I beg, I'm on my knees bowing down to your perfect ass goddess, and so he just wants to beg, and it'd be like, oh, it was like, and the calls are so weird. He said something about, I said something about like working out maybe and sweat, and he was like, oh my god, I would like literally stick my nose in your ass crack goddess after a day at the gym or something. I was like, oh, so you like sweaty asses, huh? So then I was like, yo, this is so real, it's so crazy. He was like, I said, oh, let me hear you sniff it. He was like, so I was like, sniff harder, bitch. He was like, this is my life now. But I have so much fun. And I think about like, and I've talked about it on here before about how like, you know, I feel like I have to be in a certain space, but now it comes so much naturally. Like, so this last time he was telling me like, can you please go hard on like, can you be mean? Can you do like the humiliation piece, like make fun of my small penis or whatever, which we've never talked about that. I really didn't know, like, he's never been sexually suggestive. And so I like asked him how big his penis was. And he was like, it's 5 inches, goddess. And I was like, damn, you don't even clear fucking half a ruler. Like, that's a sad life, nigga. Like, are you okay? But anyway, so I got the dildos, and my mom was like, what are you even doing with that? And I was like, you know, I got a 4-inch dildo, and that's still bigger than you? That's crazy. Or like the 8-inch, like it's my big black cock. And she was like, but it's like a ombre blue. It's like a blue and clear. And she was like, but that's not black. I was like, but it's big and I'm black, so I'm the big black cock. And I was like, and she's like, and what do you do with that? And I was like, I mean, I got a new harness, so I just put in a harness and wave it around in the camera and just be like, open your mouth, bitch. Like, maybe I can transfer some inches with you eating my dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just be, honestly, you just be saying crazy shit. And I've really been tapping into that as of lately. So I've been doing like eating instructions and like more bratty, sadistic, like, bitch, give me my fucking shit. What the fuck? Like, what is your fucking purpose? Because apparently that's what the people are liking, and I'm having a grand time. I'm having a ball. Honestly, I'm really excited about October coming up because like Locktober, chastity. So I'm really trying to start stepping into stuff that I don't normally do. So like the whole CEI, the bratty, mean, like fucking guzzle that cum, bitch. Like, just I've been saying off the wall shit, but listen. And so that makes me think of like somebody had came in and she had said how she had did a video where she was just basically like, it was like racial slurs, and she's like, you'd be surprised, like the content, like basically explore, because you'd be surprised something that maybe you haven't been comfortable with or didn't really know how to get into, that might be your biggest your biggest success, right? And so me diving into this with the CEI and the financial domination clips, I did audio only. So like last month I had talked about, well, in July it was 2 days a week, which was kind of prepping me of just getting in the habit of scheduling something, versus August I was very ambitious and I was like, I'm doing 28 days. And then this month it started out with like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday clip releases. And then I was like, I want a little bit more engagement. So then I was like, ooh, Wednesday and Friday I can do like audio only. So it's like what I did was like a drip method. So each week is just building off of each other. So like Wednesday for this month is come eating instructions. So you have the first one, you have the second one, you have the third one, and then the fourth week I put like, you have to buy 1 through 3 in order to have access to the fourth, because I'm literally like walking you through like, okay, you remember when you did this last week? We're gonna get more intense. Like, I want you on your knees, I want you crawling around, I want you doing this. Like, you thought you survived last week, bitch. I hope you in shape, I hope you're ready, right? So that also increases your sales. Like, oh, like if they get that first one and they like it, then they're gonna keep coming back for more to see what is the build up, what am I doing, right? And I actually had a sub who bought that like immediately. So I messaged him and I was like, oh, like, you're a little cum guzzler, what's up? And he was like, no, actually, like, I'm not into CEI, but like I really like how brutally you were talking. And so he brought the second one. And so we're gonna see, he liked the post about where I was like, you gotta buy all 3 to get to the fourth one. So we'll see. He's also inquired about other stuff. He's bought other clips. And then I also have so that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the financial domination, Saturday. So then Sunday and Mondays are just like timeline posts to like my subscriptions, which are mini vids and loyal fans. Excuse me. So it's just like maybe a picture accompanied with a caption, or like a 1 minute, just a random clip that I've saved from like my story or something. And yeah, so trying to do all of that. I got my first throne gift, y'all. I'm so excited. It's a little red latex bodysuit. I don't know who sent it, but shout out to you. Okay. What else? Oh, I got my first custom request, which I'm really excited about. This internet man wants me to pretend to be an evil stepmom and make him eat a bar of soap. And we're having a whole discussion. She's like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, what type of bar? Like, what bar? Because he gave me recommendations of the bar of soap to use. And he's like, these are some of the ones I would like, but it really doesn't matter as long as it's a big bar and not like a little hotel soap. Like, I want to see the suds. I want you to make me chew it. And he's like, you have an evil laugh that I love. He was like, I like your nails. I just took my nails off though. And yeah, so again, it's like, I would not have had, if I hadn't just stepped outside of my comfort with the CEI, I might not have the opportunities that I'm having right now. So step outside of your comfort zone. So that's really findom. But to bring it back, I y'all, I've barely touched the notes that I want to do. So we'll see. We'll keep getting. Oh shit. We'll keep seeing where we go. But anyway, so back to my cultural humility class. I know that was kind of where I was. I never finished that point. So I was with two of my my cohort member and my classmate, and we were talking about like white anger and where does that come from. And I was like, what I'm really realizing, and I that's what I was talking about, extending grace of like being a black person is exhausting to like have to constantly be aware, hyper aware of my identity, how I'm presenting, who I'm around, having to deem, is this person safe, particularly is this white person safe for me. And even if it's not a white person, like it comes down to like racism and prejudice and discrimination is so embedded in everything that we do that it's like, are you a Uncle Tom? Are you a coon? Are you a black person that's unsafe for me, that supports Trump or whoever else is like spewing this dangerous rhetoric for our people? Like, are you self-hating to the point, or are you a black man who's like, oh, black power, but you don't have respect for black women? Like, so thinking about all these intersection, like this, I love this class. I love this class to say the least. But we're having this conversation about like, I really feel, or did I finish? I feel like I finished my point, but I didn't. I feel like, in terms of having to like feel like I'm on the constant defense of protection, and also like, how am I presenting myself? Am I contributing to this? Having to second guess, like, is this me or is this you? And if this is you, also having to kind of like backtrack, like, where could this possibly be coming from? So to bring me into the conversation I was having with my cohort and classmate is that like, what I've come to realize is what I think white people get so upset and angry because it goes to what we've been taught. We've been taught about slavery, that it was hundreds of years ago, that we're past that black people are no longer being, and they're not in whip, they're not getting whipped, they're not in chains, they're not picking cotton, they're not being whatever, like even Jim Crow laws or segregation, we're past that point. You have opportunities, and it's not me. I'm not doing this to you. I don't believe that, right? And so it's thinking that we're so far removed, on top of not giving and teaching accurate information, like, yes, we are not whipping niggas. Slavery, as it has been historically taught, is not where we're at. But modern day slavery is the prison system. And do you really understand how many black and brown bodies are within the prison system? Or even if you know that there's a high population, do you know what that really means? Do you know what they have to deal with when they're in prison, and what that looks like outside of, if they're able to get out of prison? What does that mean for them in terms of trying to find a job and rebuild their self? Recidivism, how likely are they to go back to jail? And we hear a lot of times, like, or maybe not a lot, that's just me saying that, but like, I've heard stories of where people much rather be in jail, like they will purposely go back, because as fucked up as the system is, they have more protections, or they have more access to resources, which isn't a lot, but they have more of that in prison than they do outside of prison. Or homeless people wanting to go to, because at least they got a bed. They got a bed. They're not sleeping on the streets. And now homelessness is criminalized. And the way people look at homeless people, and it's like, there's bigger fish to fry. There's other things going on. So I was saying, in that extent, like, I have to remember that it's like the way that slavery and racism and all of this stuff is being taught, and like what they're exposed to, it makes sense that they would get angry. Like, what are you talking about? That's not happening, because that's not their everyday experience. And taking it out of racism, it's just like, on a human level, we don't really understand things, or yeah, we don't really understand things and have compassion for things until we personally experience them, whether that's like ourselves or someone close to us. And even then, sometimes someone close to us is not our experience, so we still may not digest it in that way. um so yeah, it was like the first class. It was a lot. It was a lot that was said. Some of the questions that we had to answer in groups was, oh no, that was the second class. I don't think, did I no, that wasn't, I don't think I took notes the first class, but the first class I did make this artwork that I didn't really finish. And I can't remember like the specific question that was asked. Or was this the first class? Or was this, I think this was the first class. But it's a collage that I have of like black women that I found in magazines. And I feel like the question had something to do of like, think about a session or like a client interaction that you had, and brain dump whatever comes to mind. So I had wrote shelter, mother-like, balancing, femme mask, locks, black woman, making the best out of situations, optimism, creativity, anxiety, depression, tactile, colorful, bright, influence, impactful, loving, caring, hopeful, peaceful. And then we kind of had to like break down like, why were you thinking, so it was like a positive experience you had of like where you really related to someone on this like transference level, or was it a time where like you really didn't understand their culture or whatever. So I was talking about how I had a client who I really resonated with, which I've talked about in past episodes. And so I had to kind of break down like, okay, this is with my brain dump, but what does that mean? So I really resonated with her because of the physical similarity. She was a black woman. We both had locks, similar experiences, living in a shelter, having to make the best out of situations, reminiscent of just like the black woman experience of being being mother-like, and reminding me of my mom in many ways, and like sharing a lot of emotional experiences within, like listening to her talk about like having a struggle of mask and femme and doing things for, allowing other people to do stuff. And just also thinking about like her and her artwork and her optimism of how she shows up. So for me, it was like making this piece, this back here, the butterflies and this color is really like the mediums that she would use, the color, the expression, and even like there was sometimes where she would come to group and she wouldn't even make art. She would just want to be there. And then we'd be like, oh, do you have word art, in a way that she could describe something that was related to the prompt, like, oh, tell us about a happy memory, or one of your a safe space for you. And the way that she can just like describe, and like her words are so powerful that it puts you in this scene. And so I just think of her as just the colorful aura, colorful person. And then thinking about like black women, and like just like having to constantly be like this hard, tough, and protective, and so many facets of us. So that was that piece. So the professor thing. So afterwards, it really kind of sat with me, and I had to kind of unpack it. And I'm thinking about, the purpose of this class is to kind of challenge, to challenge things and ask questions, and like not really judging, trying to find like answers. Yeah. So what I ended up doing, I emailed her and I was like, I let her know I was going to be out of town in a couple of weeks because I'm going to New York to go sit on a motherfucker's face and punch him in the nuts, okay? I didn't tell her that part, but, I was like, I'm not going to be in class, and, like, if you have a moment before class, I would love to, like, sit down and talk to you. So she's like, yeah, this one I'll be in my office, so I got there and I really didn't know how to approach the conversation because I've never done it before. Right. But I think even just in the first week, this is something that I'm being called to do and become more comfortable with. And so I kind of was like, I don't really know how to say, because I got to a point in my head where I was overthinking a conversation. Like, I don't want her to think I'm mad at her. I don't want her to, like, and so I was trying to figure out how to navigate it. And that's where I've always struggled of like trying to address something because I'm always scared of how the other person's going to take it, and like understanding I have to word it in a certain way. And like, I think about that so much that it holds me back from doing that. And, so I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna just kind of come out straight and say it. Like, last class when we were talking and you asked me the question, I'm curious about your curiosity. And she was like, yeah, thank you for asking me that. And the conversation we had was really nice. And she was basically saying that it was like, it was her coming from a teacher and a therapy perspective of like, that was really vulnerable of you to share. Like, are you okay? Like, how was that? Because that was a lot. And you know, and she was like, and then when you were like, oh, that's not really, I don't really know if that was the answer you were looking for. Like, that's when I was like, oh fuck, I fucked up. And I was like, yeah, that definitely was like a moment of change. And I was just like, yeah, like I explained to her that for me, I never took it offensively, and I answered honestly because I do feel that a safe space has been created for me to be able to answer in that way. I was just initially caught off guard of being asked the question. And then after I said it, it was just like, oh shit, like, were we going there? Like, I took it there, but was that where we were trying to go? And so, yeah, so we had a nice conversation and like got to know each other more personally. And I love that class. I'm having so much fun. So then that was right before we had the class about like cultural humility, and versus cultural competence, and trying to also put it in like an art therapy framework. So some of the questions we were asked is like, how does the concept of cultural humility integrate with existing art therapy approaches? Are there specific models or techniques within art therapy that align particularly well with cultural humility principles? How can art therapists avoid falling into stereotyping while practicing cultural humility? What steps can be taken to ensure that each client's unique cultural identity is understood and valued? We watched a movie. The film discusses power dynamics in therapeutic relationships. How can art therapists recognize and address power imbalance in their interactions with clients from different backgrounds? And then like each person had a question, but we were in groups of 3. So my group, those are the 3 questions we had. And so some of the things we had talked about was like, partnering with other practitioners and considering what you're comfortable with, what your strengths and limitations are, what am I competent at, what are my values, types of models that would help are like studio based or phenomenological. I butchered that word. Existential, person centered. And I know for some of y'all that are like either new or not in this line of work, you're like, what are you even fucking talking about? I've been rapping for so much, I'll eventually get back into it. But I think asparagus pussy. I don't know. I don't know what episode number that is, but that is the episode title. I'm wearing a black shirt with blue words. Asparagus pussy. I talk a little bit more. I talk more about my theoretical approaches, which are still all pretty much the same, because I was doing a project last semester, using the art as a container, talking to our supervisor, prioritizing individualism and expertise of the client, setting boundaries, clear open communication, inviting community members into spaces, and learning. So lots of things we can do. And then this week, we talked about, so we had a couple of different articles to read, and we were just really talking about this idea of intersectionality and what does that mean, and like having to really keep that in mind because we're taught so much of like judging a book by its cover. When we first meet a person, we're already judging them based off the color of their skin, how they present, how they talk. Like there's so much surface level that we're already like checking off boxes like, okay, this is a person I do or do not want to be associated with. And depending on how many of those boxes are checked or not will determine whether we continue trying to get to know them. And then like at what point is it like, okay, I like you, but like our values are too different. And so there was like a framework that we were given addressing. That's the acronym. So considering the person's age and generational influences, their the development or other disability, religion and spiritual orientation, their ethnic and racial identity, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, indigenous heritage, national origin, and gender. Like these are all things that are so complex. Like, so when we meet somebody of a certain age, what are we considering? So generally speaking, like children are seen as like children should be seen and not heard. That we tend to think that they're incapable of having intellectual conversations or understanding something that we deem intellectual, or teens, how they're seen to be like resistant and defiant and just like it's all me, I don't give a fuck about what y'all got going on, or how adults seem to be like stuck in their ways or habits formed, and then there's like other considerations or like generational influences. I have to think a lot about older generations. They lived through Jim Crow, they lived through segregation, so that fuels, or they lived through the 80s with the crack, the war on drugs, on the HIV epidemic, so that shapes like. And when you think about media and what is being said, how people are being treated, where are people getting their sources from, have they really been like, do they know anybody that's on drugs or has been affected by drugs? Do they know anybody who's affected by HIV or AIDS? Like, how personal is that? Or are you just like listening to all this rhetoric, we need to crack down on this and we need to do that and da da da. So thinking about like a person of that age, what were they, how, considering like how that might have been for them to live through that moment in time, and how that's shaping how they how they their ideology today, or how they raise their kids or move within spaces. Thinking about any developmental or developmental disabilities or other disabilities, like was it something that acquired at birth or later in life? And considering like 9 times out of 10, especially more so in, or I'm not gonna say 9 times out of 10 because again I don't know the actual numbers, but a person who has had a lifelong disability more or less is less likely, more towards their adult years, to be in therapy centered around that part of their identity, whereas someone who acquired it later in life or maybe got a later diagnosis, that is more of like the center of their world of readjusting. What does this thing happening or this diagnosis do for me, and how do I move forward? How do I process that? So for someone to have a disability, like how much of like the therapeutic relationship or the therapeutic goal does that really does it matter? I'm going to say matter. Religion and spiritual orientation, and thinking about your biases. So if you're like a hard Christian, and then you have a client who's like a fucking Muslim or some other culture or religion, or maybe they're not religious and they're more in the spiritual realm, and whatever, a collection of things, but like, if their views don't align with your religion or your spiritual practice, and how do you work through that? Um, ethnic and racial identities. And like, when do you bring, especially if you are different races, when do you bring that up? Like, and a lot of this is like, as a therapist, if it's something you notice, like, what do you do with that? When is it really your place, or is it ever your place to bring that up? Like, is this something that you are better off acknowledging and doing your own research? Like, so that's a lot of the conversation about, you know, it's like, it's not necessarily the therapist's job to bring it up, but it is the therapist's job to do the work, to do research and learn more. So if it does come up, so if you have a client who is Native American, it's not really ethical to not do any research on Native American culture. Start somewhere, and maybe you feel awkward going like, "Oh, tell me more about your culture." Because again, you don't want to go to that person and have them be your like tell all. Like, you got to do some of the work on your own. So you have been given like, oh, this is their race or their ethnicity or their culture, whatever it is, and at some point you kind of have to take the responsibility to look into that. And that's not saying like, okay, I got this client that's Native American, I'm about to go look up all these different Native American practices, and in the next session I'm like, yeah, so tell me, are you a part of this tribe or what did it? No. But that's starting somewhere. You're internalizing that, and it's just kind of like, if something comes up in session, you are either, and it is relevant, because in Native American there's so many different tribes, but just like African American or African Black, like, there's so many different tribes within that. Or, and it means something different to be a Black American versus like a Black United Kingdom, a Black Brit, or wherever else. And so taking in information about their culture and then continuing to contextualize it and learn more in conversations with them, so that you can have a more informed conversation or point of view without putting them on the spotlight. Like, if they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. So yeah, that was a big part of the discussion. And something in reading one of the articles, so two articles were, one was this addressing model and looking at intersectionalities, and the other one was an art therapist who was talking about like response art and how she used it to address her biases. So she was telling a story about how like she had a 13-year-old African American male, and she was like, he was a large 13 year old African American male, and he had emotional disturbance and low tolerance and like a lot of different diagnoses and behavioral issues. But you also had to think like this, it was like something about like he was with his father, like his mom abandoned him, he was with his father for most of his life, and then his mom came out of nowhere and got full custody of him, so now he's moved and like he's living with the mom and somebody else, and it's just like all of these changes. He doesn't really have contact with his main father anymore. It's his stepfather now, and they don't really get along. So it's like at such a young age, your life is uprooted. And I don't remember if it mentioned like drugs and anything else, but that's a lot. That's a lot for someone of that age to handle. And so like it was just, he was constantly in trouble and constantly acting out and testing boundaries with adults, because it's a lack of trust. Like, how can I trust you? It's just. I think I might have mentioned the book that I'm still reading it slowly, but I'm reading it, Permission to Feel. Like, that's what it is. And even in that book, they were given an example of how, this boy, or was that or another article? It was another article actually, but no, the author was saying how like he, was it therapy with his uncle? It was something like that. It wasn't until like his uncle actually heard him out, where his uncle was able to put it in perspective and kind of help him through it. But it's like teens, there's so much, that's the point in time where you are really looking for who you are. Like that's a point in time where identity matters. Like, do I have friends? Am I fitting in with, like, what group of people am I fitting in with? And so you're trying to explore your identity, test boundaries, and see what is there, what is all out there for you, what are your interests. Like, that's a crucial period. And to also just have all these emotions that people, you're still considered a kid, and you don't talk back and do what I tell you to do and whatever else, and it's not as many, like, you still have to have this parental permission. So yeah. And she was talking about, like, there was a particular moment where they were in session, and, like, he had, like, grabbed, I think the session was ending, and he got mad, so he, like, grabbed scissors and was like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna da da da. And then when they were, like, walking back to class, he was, like, taunting her, and she was like, she was petrified, but she had to remain calm. And so for her, she used the art to kind of unpack that, and she did it from, like, a cultural perspective of, like, what about this made me feel unsafe. And then she just kind of broke it down. She gave a lot of different examples, but she was saying, I've been taught, when we look at media, we see, like, this idea of these kids are being portrayed as adults, they're being treated as adults, they're being dehumanized and ridiculed and all these other things. So there's the mass media is responsible for demonizing a lot of black children and black people. So you already have that, and then, like, we're constantly fed that black people are poor, they're this or they're that. And she's like, the population that she was working with was primarily black and brown children who are underserved, who don't have this resources. So it's like, it's being portrayed in the media. This is the population and the setting that I'm in that's reinforcing that too. And it's just kind of negating, like, we don't talk about, like, the white people that are just as poor or poorer, right? Or yeah. So it was really eye-opening to see, like, how much she broke it down. So then that made me raise the question of, like, at what point in history did the cisgender heterosexual white male perspective become the dominant one? And even that question in itself is a bit subjective, because that is in the context that's being asked from a black American woman. That's assuming, because the US is so fucking conceited. Like, we think we're so much more important than in so much more. We think we're the shit, okay? And we are, but maybe not as great as we think we are. And so, like, in America, the cisgender white heterosexual male perspective is a big one. I mean, that's where studies, all the stuff, like, and we keep learning about how so many things, so many medicines, so many treatments, just so many, just like, examinations are based, like, what do you mean you've never tested actual menstruation blood? You're making products for something you've never tested? Crazy. That's crazy. You're giving people medicine and you've never tested how it works with women bodies or femme bodies. Hormone levels are so there's differences. And to think that, y'all, it'd be loud over here, sorry. So it's things like that, right? But again, I said that's subjective, because who's to say that in Japan or Australia or fucking I don't know, Chile, Argentina, like, how much of that really is. But it's like, I don't know, is it a fair argument? Because colonizers, like, just the history of so many people having to break free of independence from these, like, white dominant cultures. So it was a really interesting discussion and something that I'm continuously looking forward to. Something else, last week we had to do, well, first class I noticed on the syllabus that one of our assignments is a cultural genome. And so that's basically just like a map of like a family genome is just like, tracking the generations. A cultural one is like tracking the generations but thinking about in a cultural lens, like the influences, things that may have positively or negatively impacted a generation and how that's trickled down into the ideology, the values, the beliefs of the other generations, or how they were raised and things like that. And so when I first saw that assignment, I was like, oh, fuck no. Like, what do you mean? And I really appreciated that the text we read brought that up about how, like, this can be a lot, particularly for African American students, because their history of base being stripped from their home country and just everything, like, a lot of our last names are last names that we've gotten from slave masters. So it's a lot. And so I was really appreciative of that chapter, because like as soon as I saw the syllabus, my heart sunk. I was like, fuck, like I don't, people always be like, are you Ethiopian? I don't know why I look Ethiopian, but I get that a lot. Like, I don't know enough about their culture or like common, I guess, attributes that would make people, but I get that a lot from older black men. They be like, oh my God, are you Ethiopian? Like, no, I'm black. Like, I don't know. But that's always something that I've wondered. I think I've talked about a little bit too. Just like, I am curious about what I like to be like. I'm 25% Puerto Rican and 25% Dominican and 50% black. But you could argue I'm all black with that. But we're not going to get into that. But yeah, and when the day that I do a DNA test, if that shit come back even the slightest bit, if I got some Latina in me, oh, prepare to be sick of me. Okay, prepare to be motherfucker. I promise you. Because my friends be like, bitch, you not Spanish, you not Hispanic. And I be like, ay, papi. Tú no, I know, I don't know is yo no sé, but I'm trying to say you don't know. You don't know me. You don't know where I come from. I don't know either, but anyway. Yeah, but that was like a genuine concern for me. And so then last week when we went more in depth, and the project's now due next week, I have to actually make it and then write a paper. Last week in class, like, we talked more in depth about it, and I ended up crying after class, and like some of my cohort members were around me, and they were like, it's okay. It is something that like they were worried about too. And like one of my cohort members, they were talking about like, I have a little bit of idea, but like, I don't have a positive relationship with my mom or this side of the family, and thinking about, kind of dreading this project too. And so it was like really emotional for a couple of us. And since then, after I moved through my emotions, I allowed myself to feel that. I've been kind of, although I haven't started the project yet, which I do intend to do, obviously, I've been thinking about, especially in that generational influence, like I don't need to know my ethnic history to know how race has impact, because the two are different, and race is a construct, right? I was watching a video of somebody, I'm blanking on the name, but they were talking about how like they had took some students to, I think it was Haiti, and they they were calling the black students white too, but that's because they were from America. Like, so race is seen differently. It's a construct, and it's seen differently outside of the US. Like, US is really its own bubble. So yeah, since then I've just kind of been thinking about generational impacts, and like I can do it from that perspective of like, okay, maybe I don't talk to this family member, maybe they're not alive and I don't really know, but I can still look at the historical context and how that has impacted culture. So yeah, I've been talking for an hour and a half, and y'all ain't even touch my notes, right? I don't even know how long this episode is gonna be because y'all know I wanted to talk about that motherfucking debate, okay? And I wanted to still be relevant to it within this week. So we'll see how long this episode is. I don't want to ramble too long, but I'll try not to go more than 2 hours because we's already at 124. Okay. But I've just been collecting notes, and so I was thinking about some of the things, like, so this past conversation, one of my cohort members talked about like having to think about all of this cultural perspective and doing this research on your own and looking up and like being overwhelmed about all of the information we're receiving and having to credit, like, you know, is this source reputable or what are they saying, and looking at and considering different perspectives. I was thinking about, you know, when my mom and I were watching the DNC, and primarily it's CNN that I've been watching and I get my perspective from. I enjoy CNN, but then if you turn the channel to Fox, it's completely different rhetoric. It's completely different point of view. And so understanding like the perspective in which you are receiving your information from. There was somebody on one of the things I was watching that was talking about like, and this is goes into what I've been saying of like having, and I've heard this too, is like the importance of doing your research. If you don't know, like, at what point do you become accountable for this, right? Are you just blindly following what someone else is saying, or are you doing the work for yourself? And in terms of like Trump just, that nigga be saying the crazy, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets, and this man is running for president. Like, how unhinged. And y'all, when I was watching the debate, like, you could see the moment that she mentioned his crowd sizes and people leaving, that man twitched and he was unlocked. He just started talking crazy because he was just so hurt. But I think too that something that's not really talked about or recognized is that the election really doesn't only affect the United States. And something that I was watching, they were talking about how like Trump has actively talked about how he doesn't want to do NATO, which is the National Atlantic Treaty Organization. Let me make sure I got that right, because again, y'all, I didn't do the yes, North North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was founded in 1942. And y'all, I had to go back and do research, so I'm actually gonna put the link below. I did watch a couple videos from Mr. Beat. I just typed in on Google, like, not Google, YouTube, like NATO for dummies, and I ended up coming up to one of his videos about NATO. And then I watched another video which was relevant to some of the things that I'm talking about, is like, why don't we get along with other people, and where is this root cause? And it comes from media bias, information bias, like not being able to get their sources. So the first video that I watched about NATO was like maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and then the second video I watched was more in the realm of like, why don't we get along, why are we so divided as a people? And that was like 20 minutes. And one thing that he did mention is that he has a code for ground news. I forget what it was, but it's basically a platform. You do have to get a subscription, but using his like promo code, you get 40% off access for your first month. And so I haven't looked and seen how much it is, but essentially it is like an independent, and they basically compare sources, so you can look at like the news for the day or whatever, and you can see like how, like who's covering it, how many media sources are like so far left versus so far right versus like more center, and like comparing the articles and seeing like, okay, even the headlines, what kind of pictures are they using. I saw some video of where this teacher was talking to a group of children, and going back to age, we always assume that children just don't know anything. Children are supposed to be seen, not heard. And they were analyzing about like, there was a picture talking about this like volleyball team that had allegations of like cheating, but the picture that all these headlines were using was of this black woman like crying. So it's like, when we see that, we're thinking, oh, black people are cheaters, or like these associations that are constantly being portrayed when black people get arrested. How many times have we seen mug shots or crazy pictures? That's why I'm like, if anything ever happened to me, like, I just wonder what types of pictures or clips they would pull up, right? Out of context clips, and crazy pictures, of like, to try to like demonize me or make me less credible, or have people have less sympathy. So, I just continue to be grateful that nothing crazy has happened, and don't let nothing crazy happen to me. But yeah, so thinking about like, how much of an echo chamber are we in? Like, who am I talking to the people that have the same value as me? Am I doing the work to look at other perspectives? And kind of comparing that. So to go back to NATO, they were saying how like, he doesn't like NATO, and he's trying to basically like break up NATO. And what is NATO? It is an alliance between 32 member countries that are basically like, in the event of a world war, like, we've got each other's backs, right? And so attack on one of us is attack on all of us. And there's different critiques on it, because it's like it promotes war, but then it doesn't, and it's a lot. But it was more so a response to like the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact, and all of that. So it's just like things go back. But to think about what it has done, getting rid of in NATO, it's a lot of like, I think the two largest countries would be us, and send stories, questions, topics, and corrections to two scrippers one poll at gmail.com. But damn, I lost my train of thought. I believe the two largest nations within it are the United States and UK. And so United States alone provides over 75% of that budget. And that basically gives like, my understanding of NATO is that like, if there's an attack on one of the countries within the treaty, that it's an attack on all of us. So we are now providing resources to help that country defend and protect themselves, right? And so, with America being such 75% of the budget is from America, and you want to pull out, like, now that's leaving these other countries that don't have enough resources to more or less ass out. And so there's conversation that apparently, Ukraine is one of the, and I didn't go deep into, I forget where exactly I read it, but like, Ukraine is one of the countries that is like under consideration for membership, and like having that protection. And we already see what's been happening with Russia and Ukraine. And so yeah, like, it's like electing Trump has so much more implications outside of just here, our everyday. And so it goes back of like, you gotta think, helping yourself and others. It's so much bigger than just us. You can argue like the two-party system and da 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 da. Like, yes, we need to figure something else out, because clearly people are fed up and things aren't working out how they need to be. But right now, it's really like the lesser of the two evils, which brings me to another point, is that when I was watching TV today, the Pope Francis chimed in, and the Catholic Church is like, I'm I'm not saying either one is good, but this is really like a moment of like, you have to pick the lesser two evils. And what does that mean for you? And that's really in terms of like abortion, which Kamala Harris is really standing on, versus immigration. And that's been one of Trump's, I don't even think I want to say it's a point, because the nigga just saying crazy shit, but that's like one of the stances, and that's what's going on. Like, and to think that like people, it's just reckless how you're having a presidential debate and you and your running mate are spreading lies, and when you get corrected on that, you're still just like, nah, I don't give a fuck, y'all niggas is eating dogs. What? And you don't care about the implications. Since then, Springfield, Ohio has, like, the members of the community have had bomb threats coming, because you really have people out here thinking that people are eating dogs and cats. And then that makes me like, y'all are so up in arms, not to say the fur babies, we love the fur babies, but y'all are so up in arms about people eating dogs and cats, as inhumane as that is. Y'all don't give a fuck about people shooting up schools, and you one of the people threatening to bomb schools. Like, what? So it's fuck the kids, but not Fido. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then it's just like the pro-life, pro-choice argument of like, not everybody is doing things for the right reasons. I'm sure that there are people who exist that are recklessly having sex and recklessly getting pregnant, and just having it like their solution is abortion, their solution is plan B on things. But for a vast majority, that's not the case. And really thinking about the government having so much control over a woman's body and what that's actually looking like. Like, if you've been keeping up with the debate or interviews or the DNC of like the stories that are being told of like people, some like, you're leaving it up to the states, but the states are going to the extremes. You have people who want to have children being denied care when they're having a miscarriage, left to bleed out, because that provider is either just like so set in their religious beliefs, or they're scared that they'll go to jail for trying to help. So now, not only do you have this life of the child, but the life of the mother is at risk. Having young girls being assaulted and having to carry a pregnancy to term, a child, raising a child, which is something we talked about in my group therapy class too, of like, looking at the relationship and hardships of young mothers in bonding and attachment with their child, because it's like, again, at that age, you're learning so much about yourself, and so now you have to be a motherly figure to a child. And what if you don't even have a positive motherly relationship? So you don't even know you don't have a model. Like, it's so much to consider. It's so much to consider. And for someone who is running for president, there's just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you just out here saying and doing crazy things, and you don't have a positive temperament. You don't have like, so yeah, Pope Francis is like, we got two things, like, on the Trump in like immigration is a positive thing. The integration of different cultures and allowing people like access to things, that's a great thing. And you have somebody who's so hard, like, I'm about to deport all these people, and then even with what's going on in Springfield, you're sitting here talking about, oh, these people are illegal, I'm gonna mass deport them. They are here legally. They are here because these jobs needed to be filled. They did the proper work to be here, and there's been growth in the economy and the community within that space. And so you out here just saying crazy things that are also untrue. And there are some people like watching Trump supporter interviews is crazy. I came across something the other day, and the reporter, and it's like, we laugh because it's funny, but it's sad, and we gotta stop laughing. We got to. It's hard. It is very hard. But this affects so many people and so many things, right? And all the memes, they're funny, but it's like we need to be pushing more of like positive hope and change and possibilities. But she was interviewing Trump supporters, and she was saying like things that Trump has said or done, but saying Biden did it, and then seeing what they were how they would react, and then after they react, like, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke, it was Trump, and seeing how they react. And so every single one of the people that she interviewed, they was just saying off the wall shit. So it was like one of the things she was talking about, and it was like things you would think are so memorable in society that you would think if you really a Trump supporter, you would know that Trump said that. So it's just people blindly following this man. So y'all aren't even really taking the time to do the research or watch. Like, y'all aren't even tuning in. Y'all just like, I don't know. I don't know. But like one of the things was like, Biden had said during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, that like, oh, about the Lysol, like drink Lysol to clear your system out, or da whatever. And the lady's like, oh, Biden's dementia, that's just crazy. Why would you tell anybody to say that? And blaming it on this dementia. He's old. He needs to get out. Why is he president? And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. That was actually Trump that said that. And she's like, I forget exactly what she said, but another one was like talking about the like MRI machines, and it was like shining a light through something. And so she had said like Biden's dementia, but then she was like, it was actually Trump. And it was like, oh, well, it really depends on the context. Like, are we talking about MRI machines? Are we talking about this? Are we talking about that? Like, and not even a minute has passed in between this. Insane. That's crazy. Let me see. Did I talk about, let me see. I did talk about that. I talked a little bit about Mr. Beat. I talked about representation in media and leaders a little bit. I'm talking about how words matter. Yeah, like it's just, he just don't care, and we're talking too much. This whole new thing with Laura Loomer, who I tried to like do some research on her, but I was watching CNN, and I was like the main loop of topics, like obviously the debate, the eating dogs, was happening in Springfield, Ohio, because of it. and like who this Laura Loomer person is. I never heard about her before today, and apparently she's like a huge conspiracy theorist and just be saying wild shit. And now all of a sudden she's been with Trump all week, and what does that mean? And him like, oh, and the debate when they're talking about abortions, and he's like, JD Vance said this and da da da. Well, we didn't really talk about that. What do you mean you didn't talk to the person that you are elected to be your right hand man? If something should happen to you, that is the person that would take over. So the partnership, there should be things y'all are discussing. What do you mean you didn't talk to him about policy? What? And so why is he out here saying stuff that you supposedly don't agree with? And then even after the debate, they interviewed JD Vance and like, oh yeah, he said that, but like that's not really what. It's all over the place, and y'all are just saying crazy things. Y'all are saying crazy things. And so in terms of Laura Loomer, he's like, you know, she's a big supporter, blah blah blah. I don't know what she's saying. So you don't have any discernment. You just hanging out with people because they support you, but it's conceitedness. Even at the debate, the minute she talked about people getting up and leaving because they bored, you hurt. Now you just saying crazy shit. It's all ego. He likes the attention. He likes the support. So he'll say whatever he need to say to get that attention. He just is flattery. That's what Kamala was talking about. Like, these world leaders don't like you. They just know you're easy to manipulate. So yeah, they're rooting for you because they know that they could have their way with the US. So again, it goes so much bigger than just what we're going in here. And whether you like Kamala or not, you have to bring it down to like, who is the better human? Who really gives us a chance? And I'm just so fed up that like a lot of people's arguments with Trump is a stimulus check. I know I be broke sometimes, but I'm not that broke. I'm not that broke that I need that again. And it wasn't even Trump. It wasn't even Trump. He was gonna get them stimulus packages anyway. But he needs that recognition so bad that he signed his motherfucking. He needed before they went out. He was like, no, I'm putting my name on them. So the people who got physical checks had a signature from Trump on it because he was that pressed. And now here we are 4 years later, and y'all niggas talking about some, oh, the economy was at its best, We have to remember we are here because of Trump and all that he did and did not do, right? And I can't give you a super accurate answer. That's going to be, you know, as I continue to talk about election stuff and get more, because it's a lot. I watch interviews and it's a lot for me to process, because this is all new information. So I'm trying to remain like present into what's going on versus like also going back to track, how did we even get here? What does this mean? Like, I'm essentially, while trying to learn stuff for school, but thankful that these things are overlapping, you know. Great timing for me to be taking this class and being in the space that I'm in, given the state of the world that we're in. I did talk about that. And then, you know, the idea of abortion within Catholicism, to go back to the Pope, like, that's a big, like, no. So you really are faced with, like, the people who are, like, deeply devoted to their faith of, like, which one, you know? And I think that a bonus of, like, you know, Kamala said in the debate that it's like, you don't, regardless of your faith, like, you have to know what's really at stake here. There's not the way abortion is portrayed is just like you out here being reckless and you don't want to take care of, or you out here being reckless, you don't want to take care, you having sex and you need to have the consequences. But it's so much deeper than that. Again, like, y'all fail to give proper sexual education to people. You don't teach people consent. So you have people who are coerced into things or being assaulted, or just don't, like, just the environment that they're raised in, like, it's just, they don't have a healthy view of sex, so they don't know how to make more informed decisions for themselves. They're already in a place of a food desert, or low income and lack of funding in education. It's all a trickle effect. So now, like, they don't have the access to get an abortion, or at this point they might live in a place where it's illegal, so they're forced to like have this baby, but then no resources are given them to help them learn how to be like parenting techniques or skills or support groups for younger individuals or people within certain communities. So it's like, these same pro-lifers, especially the hardcore ones, are like, okay, you care so much about protecting this embryo, this fetus, this being within me, but then once that being comes out, you just throw it to the side. You don't help me. And a lot of times people get abortions because I am not in a space to be able to take care of this human being. And y'all trying to argue, well, you shouldn't have been having sex, is not a strong enough argument. Cause y'all aren't giving, y'all are literally setting us up for failure. Yeah. It's so much. It's so much. I have written down why I brought up Laura Loomer. It's really giving me Homelander and Firecracker. Like, if you watch The Boys, I've said before, Trump is Homelander with superpowers, and this Laura Loomer chick, I don't know much about her, but she's giving me Firecracker vibes, just because I'm thinking about how, like, Firecracker had this platform of just spreading whatever crazy stuff, and now she was right behind Homelander. And I ain't seen nothing about Melania. I don't know where homegirl at, but yeah, it's what else? I think I talked about how I realized my titties are lopsided before. I think I did. Yeah, I did talk about that. Um, um, what time is it? It's been 1:50. So let me talk a little bit more specific about like my take on the debate. I think that the first question that was asked, are Americans suffering more now? Kamala did not answer that question. I'm gonna be straight up. Baby girl just was like she pulled a Trump. She went around the question and started talking about something completely different. Baby, the yes or no? Why? Are we struggling? Yes. Why? Because of that nigga right there. That could have been your answer. You already wanted to call him a motherfucker. We saw it. We saw it. You caught yourself. Proud of you. But yeah, that nigga right here. Americans are suffering more now because of him. We have been trying to clean up his work. And people, there's not like, I had notes too. I think I mentioned it last week of like deeming what needs to be taught. Like, we really, these things we were taught in high school or middle school or whatever, but it really, I don't know, like it was one of those things that you had to comprehend it, but you either had to be interested in it, or you're like me, and in your adult years you have to go back and like do the work and learn this stuff. So it's like when I look up NATO, it's like, okay, I remember parts, like, okay, I remember the Berlin Wall, I remember Warsaw Pact, but like, what does that really mean? What really happened? So I'm constantly having to go back, and there's not really like a true breakdown of, we're just fed all this stuff. And again, it's like with book banning and how much of this is accurate, who's this textbook written by, what are the textbooks, like there's no in depth. This curriculum is just created and given to us, and then we have to hope that our teacher is creative enough to get us to learn the information and why it's relevant. Okay, my phone died, so I have spent the last hour eating noodles and uploading content to my spicy sites. And I was like, okay, I really have been rapping, so I'm gonna wrap it up. So yeah, just critique on the debate. Obviously, Kamala won. It's so immature for Trump to have not shaked her hand, and like how forceful she had to come to him to be like, nigga, shake my hand, like what the fuck. And I believe he didn't shake Hillary's hand either in any of their debates. So it's like the misogyny And so why women are so pro-Trump is crazy. I could also go into like, I'll write that down, like the undecided voters. Um, yeah, so it was like the handshake kind of set the tone. I don't think that she answered the question about our American suffering. She did not answer when they asked her about like fracking. I had to look up what fracking is, and fracking is a type of um, energy energy process, I would say. And it, from what I've been watching since the debate, they're like, fracking really isn't as big of an issue as like the media is trying to make it seem, and really people are more so about like, the economy, what's going on with the economy and what's this plan. um she didn't answer. It was like asking her about going back and forth on policies, one of which was fracking. And then the other one I think was like it had to do with ooh, I forget what the other two were about, but she only answered the fracking one. She didn't answer the other two. And so I would say those are like really my biggest critiques. I think that moving forward, she really needs to like go into what is your plan, what is your policy. I feel like that's the question everybody's asking. Like, Trump clearly doesn't. He has concepts of a plan, and I feel I be having concepts of a plan in my head. I be writing shit down, but when are you gonna execute it, and what does that look like? Can you give us anything? And I think for her, it's really like, okay, you're like, I have a plan. The other candidate doesn't have a plan. I have a plan. I have a plan. And the only plan you've gotten into is that, like, the tax credits, which is beautiful. But, like, me, I don't have kids. I don't plan on having kids. That don't really help me. Maybe a small business one does, and the first time home buyer does. But still, people don't really understand what that means, or what an opportunity economy means. So I think definitely giving a better explanation, a simpler explanation to people, like, okay, what does this look like? You have a plan, but what would that look like? How do I benefit from it? What is the future of that? And like really going more into detail where her policies, I think is really what she needs to do. Because that's what it seems like, the people who are undecided. And I was telling my mom, I was like, after I watched the debate, if I was undecided, I would still be undecided 9 times out of 10. Like, if we're taking away character of things, if you're really looking for, some people are looking for like policy, and what does that even look like? Because yeah, I don't like Trump, but when he was president, my pockets were better. And while that may be true, like, there's not, people don't know and people don't care. I think in some instances that we're here because of Trump. And so, yeah, I think that's really what she needs to do. I did not like they asked President Trump, oh, that's so weird to say. They asked Trump about, like, basically why does he think it's appropriate to weigh in on Kamala's race. And I was really upset at first, like, how they set the question up in terms of like what they were saying, to then finally ask the question of like, you said this and this about Kamala, and then why do you feel like that's appropriate to do? And then he's like, well, if she wants to be black, she can be black. What? And for me, I felt like that was a moment of change, because just, I felt weird the way they worded the question. And I noticed that after that, it was like, it seemed like she was a little bit emotionally choked up. But as a black woman, I get it, because it's like, you have this, going back to what I was talking about, intersectionalities of like being constantly defined and having to be aware of that and how people perceive you and how you have to move. And even to think more, to go back to the addressing model of like, when it breaks down, like, I identify as a black woman who is bisexual, who's hetero romantic, and that means so much. And I was just telling one of my friends that for me, like, I didn't even feel, this is kind of going off on something else, but just thinking about like the multiple identities and how like okay, I'm already different from a man because I'm a woman, but it means something different to be a black woman versus a black man versus a Latino woman or a white woman or an Asian woman or whatever else. Then if you want to throw sexual orientation in there, it means something to be different than a black gay woman, a black straight woman, a black bisexual woman, a black pansexual, or whatever sexual you are. Like, it means something different. Those are different communities, different cultures that you now identify with and impact you. I was talking to, on that note though, I was saying, I might have mentioned this in the niggas get dick cheese with Meek and my cousin, but like, it wasn't until I was able to hear the term like bisexual heteromantic that I was like, I felt more comfortable identifying as bisexual, because I'm like, I don't want to date a woman, but I'd be thinking y'all pretty. I'd be thinking you're hot, you know. I am sexually attracted, however, I don't want to be in a relationship. Romantically speaking, I am attracted to men. That is who I'm dating. That is who I envision spending my life with. So yes, that. Um, so yeah, I think she just, whether they do another debate or not, she really needs to like give us a little bit more on her policies. Um, and so to bring it back, to wrap it up, because I've been rapping. Um, I was saying earlier about IG. So yes, please follow or IG at Two Scrippers One Poll. I do have a backup page as Two Scrippers One Poll the pod, for just updates, because I am life be lifing, as y'all know, and I be trying to give y'all what the fuck I give y'all. You know, I be doing my best. I'm doing the best I can with what I got. What can I say? And so whenever it's moments like these where I'm recording late, I try to at least update in the story. Like, I haven't been posting reels because there's so much to edit, which brings me to my point of that I left off on. My unfinished thought was that, like, my editing process now is like, I used to edit the audio separate from the video, and I had like so much audio between, bless me, the two episodes that I had to do, so I cut it down. But now it was like, okay, I'm editing the audio and then releasing the video later. So now I just record and then I'll overlap the audio on the video so it sounds clear and you can hear me better. And then I save the video and extract the audio. So it's like I do all that editing in one time. You feel me? And so I got that, but then with my spicy content, I gotta like get the video and do all the clip descriptions and all that stuff. And yeah, it'd be a lot, you know. So we figuring out a system and we getting it together. And oh my god, there's so many things I want to talk about. Okay, back to Trump real quick. Because it's just also like relevant. I also want to extend light and love to the victims of the school shooting in Georgia. Appalachia, please forgive me if I mispronounce it. It's 4 o'clock in the morning now. You know, it's ridiculous. A 14-year-old with an assault rifle, whether you know hunting or not, there's no reason for anybody to have that kind of weapon. And for you to give a child that for Christmas. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And it goes like, y'all are so in defense of guns that it's just like common sense, human decency just goes out the window, and it's so sad. So I extend light and love to all those suffering who have suffered at the hands of gun violence. There was something else I was talking about Trump. Oh yeah, it was like I saw something too where he was apparently one of his plans that he has said at it, because he keeps saying I don't know anything about 2025 and I don't know anything about Laura Loomer and da 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 da. But part of his plan is to ratify the 25th Amendment, which basically is like, yeah, the VP can get impeached. And all that's giving me is it's clear you and JD Vance got, y'all not on the same page. You just picked this nigga as the fall guy. That's what it's giving. And it's giving you want to get into this role. You realize the heat is on you. So you got to, once you get in the role, if you get in the role, then you got to like change the game. So Supreme Court gave you immunity. That's crazy. So you can't be criminally charged for things, and then you want the power to impeach the VP. So who going to be play backup if something happened to you? No, nobody, cause you trying to be a dictator. Oh, okay. Like, so it's just, and so again, if you don't have that background knowledge of how government works and things like that, people are just following blindly, or just don't listen to, like, don't watch every rally or whatever reason you support Trump. You clearly missing some pieces to the puzzle, or you got all the pieces, you just as lost in the sauce as he is. So it's loud as hell over here. I think that's really all that I want to talk about right now, because I still gotta edit this and release it. And so I'll leave y'all with, me and my cousin went to go see the Usher movie. So we went to go see Usher, and then at the end they had like an ad about how he was making his own movie, which, like, I guess that's the thing all the stars are doing. I did go see the Beyonce movie, and I believe I've talked about it before. I'm not a part of the Beehive. I put respect on B's name, cause she done did the thing. However, I'm not a part of the Beehive, and I think it's a bit overrated. Don't attack me. I respect the girl, but I stopped really listening after Lemonade. Everything else would be shit I hear on the radio or when I be in the room, But I give her flowers. So anyway, because I saw the Beyonce movie. The Beyonce movie was really good. 3 hours was a lot. I saw it late. My eyes was closing, but it was great. I cried, but I cry for everything. And then so the Usher movie was only like an hour and a half, but apparently he was in Paris. I don't know when that happened, but niggas was in Paris. So he made like a little movie over it, and it was good. There was barely anybody really in. It was like a handful of people. When we walked in a few minutes late too, which that movie started at 7:00 on the dot. Okay. 7:00 on the dot. I'm in my drop top, cruising the streets. Dum, 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 dum. I got a just waiting for me. I pull up, anticipating good love. Don't keep me waiting. I got plans to put my hands in places I never seen, girl, Okay, but yeah, you get the point. 7:00, he was ready, okay? Now, I don't even know what time we walked in, but we weren't, because I pulled up to the spot. I was having a really good conversation with my mom, which I'll get into it at some point. But I was talking to her, so I got caught up. I didn't even pull up to the place till like maybe 6:55, and we hit a J a little bit, but it was already like, it was like a quick and then we went in. So max, we was in there by 7:05 at the latest for sure. But yeah, I was like, dang, he wasn't playing. But anyway, there really wasn't that many people in it. When we first got there, it was probably only like 2, maybe 3 other sets of people in the big ass theater, and then people started coming in, but it still like was nobody in the theater, which was really cool because like we were just watching a concert. So me and my cousin were singing, and then at like other points we noticed people were standing up, like we were in there jamming. It was a great time. Like we was dancing, we was singing, like we was clapping on beat, like everybody was having a good time. So yeah. And I just think about how grateful I am with just all the experiences. I had a really good day today. I was talking to my partner, and he was just like, it's really cool to see how like you could just unapologetically be yourself all day. Cause like, y'all, I'm really prepping Okay, I'm gonna leave y'all with this. I'm really excited about Halloween. Like, have I produced the content yet? No, but I got lots of ideas. I got crystal balls, I got fake teeth, I got like chains, I got a little nurse outfit. Like, the ideas I'm doing Locktober. I finally got a little chastity cage, so it's like I'm locking your dick up, bitch, for Locktober. These teeth, these the teeth for all the motherfucking subs that tried to play with me, so I knocked they teeth out, ho. I got like a little test tube, like, this is the potion to make your dick bigger. This is the potion to make women like you. This is the potion to make you make more money so you can give it all to me, ho. Like, the ideas. Let me try and get this bag. But yeah, so I brought that up because we went to Five Below because I needed a new tripod. And then I saw this really cute, like, bunny mask. And then I was just really pressed. So we were at a stoplight and I randomly, like, put it on. So I was, like, driving through let me get it. I'm gonna end it on that. But I was driving through traffic with this thing on my head and he was like, yo, what? And people in traffic was like, let me get it, y'all. Oh shit. I was just in traffic. And yeah, for those of you who are listening only, it's like a half face mask and bunny ears, and it's like a holographic pink, and it doesn't flop, like it's plastic. So I was just riding through the streets with this on my face. But yeah, y'all, do research. Can look at more, like, never stop learning, never stop reflecting, chase your dreams, all that good stuff, y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Y'all be safe, make good motherfucking choices.